African continent is in the midst of a social, political, and economic transformation which seeks to bring economic growth, economic dependence, and of course, some political stability. African youth entrepreneurship is at the forefront of attaining this. What therefore is youth entrepreneurship in the African context? In the continent where 70% of the populations are under the age of 30, young Africans today are taking actions that not only have an immediate impact, but will also determine the future of the continent for decades to come. Entrepreneurial spirit is not strange to Africans as they are inducted into it from birth through their parents. It is in their blood. As children, they are trained to be world creators as their parents will always involve them in petty trades and lucrative activities such as farming. The developing environment of Africa is a fertile ground for entrepreneurialism as it gives room for creativity and development. Yet, Africa is far behind as far as entrepreneurship is concerned due to its education model that does not enhance and develop personal talent and skills but creates certificate holders. An educational model that does create job seekers than wealth creators. If Africa should be developed in the years to come, there must be a radical change to its education first in the creation of an educational model that takes into consideration the development demands of Africa and that enhances personal development. This alone is enough to affect the entrepreneurship of the youth in the continent Africa. The above reasons should instead be a motivating factor to the youth than a setback. Despite all odds, the African youth can be good and successful entrepreneurs if they listen to the high societal demands and seek solutions to them. This is now brings us to the problematic of today. There is nothing for us without us. African entrepreneurship, how effective is it in the economic transformation of the continent Africa? A beautiful welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to know you're onto Afrique Media at this moment. It is your favorite program, Views on the Continent, your informative, your interactive program, a platform where you get the opportunity to contribute your own quota to nation building and, of course, the involvement of the continent Africa. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is a program where you have to call the numbers on the screen and give your an opinion of what is making news. Today we are taking interest on harnessing the African youth entrepreneurship, how it is going to be useful in economic development of the African continent. And of course, with me in the studio is Mr. Agbotema, an entrepreneur. He will throw more light on what African youth can do if they become entrepreneurs. You're welcome, Mr. Agbo.
Thank you so much, Clarice. Thank you for bringing me to this program. And I hope that through our interaction today, we will be able to share some insights that will help our young brothers and sisters of Africa to be more involved in entrepreneurship.
Okay, thank you once again for joining us. Before we talk about youth and entrepreneurship, you know, there's the head of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat. He's to visit the Republic of Cameroon at the invitation of the President, His Excellency Paul Biya. What can you to say about this visit? Is the AU already saying that the position is needed as far as Cameroon is concerned and the Anglophone crisis?
Well, Clarice, you rightly said it is at the invitation of the president of Cameroon. It clearly shows that no one is an island. We all belong to somewhere, and Cameroon is a member state of the African Union. And taking into consideration the fact that there is turmoil in Cameroon, I think that it is just very normal for the African Union chairman to come to Cameroon, to come and feel the heat and to know exactly what is happening, and probably seek solution to the problems of the Cameroon, especially the Anglophone crisis and the Boko Haram insurgency. That is a very big setback to the development of Cameroon. You also understand that this year is an election year in Cameroon, and election years in every African country is always a year of great attention.
Definitely.
Especially with the objective of the African Union to erase, in fact, to impose peace in Africa by 2020.
Definitely.
You see, there is a reason why they should be more active and involved in Cameroon.
It will bring us to this question now. Now, if the president of the country is inviting such a personality, you know that we know, of course, the role of the African Union in ensuring lasting peace in the continent. Is it a way forward for the president solving this crisis that has rocked the country all this while?
You know, Clarice, when you are sick, until you are cured, no solution is minimized. I think that Cameroon is at the state now that all we can do is to open our hearts to whatever solution can bring lasting peace to Cameroon. For the president to invite him, it may be some sort of consultation. It may be for him to give him the opportunity to know exactly what is happening in Cameroon.
Definitely.
It is good. Don't also forget that apart from this year being an election year, it is also a year where we are preparing to host the African Cup of Nations. So Cameroon needs a lot of diplomatic lobbying and diplomatic involvement to arrive at its goals. So for the president to invite the chairman of the African Union, it is
African Union Commission.
The African Union
yes.
Commission, I beg your
Faki
pardon.
Mahamat, yeah.
It is a good gesture. We hope at the end of it, something good will come to the Cameroonian people, because that is our cry.
Okay, we hope that at the end of this visit by Musa Faki Mahamat, the African Union Commission chairperson, people in Cameroon, the population will smile and everything will be okay. Now let's come back to what we're talking about today. Our focal point is on African youth and entrepreneurship, looking at how it will impact the economies of the countries of the African continent. Now let's go to this first question I would like to ask. What is the place of African youth in the contemporary society?
You rightly said in your introduction that 70% of the African population is made up of youths. That alone answers your question. The future of Africa is in the hands of the youths. Even though they are not given leadership role, but you must not have a leadership role to do something for your country, to do something for Africa. I think that the youths are the focal point and very pivotal in the development of Africa in every dimension, be it social, economical, you can name it.
Okay, we're looking at the African leaders when they sat last time in Addis Ababa. They talked about the sustainable development goal, and they had this Agenda 2030, Agenda 2063. Now looking at how the population of Africa is made up of youth, as we already know, are the youth really engaged when they talk about empowering the young people? Are they being involved? Today, as you can see today, are the stakeholders, when it comes to decision making, are the youth given that place?
Well, politically, they are not given the place. But let us talk about economically.
Yeah.
The youth don't need to be given a place in the economical development of Africa. They have to seize it. Because economic development, it's all about developing your talent and your skills. And like you rightly said in your introductory message, Africans are entrepreneurs by birth. It runs in our blood. They need to develop our country. They need to develop our continent. It is in us. So, like, it is not that they are not given the role in decision making, but I think that the society we live pushes us to arrive at decisions of creativity, because we have a lot of problems, and these are opportunities for creativity and talent enhancement and development.
Okay. These are opportunities for creativity and talent enhancement and development. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame once said that we need to invest in the young people. Now, the question I'm asking is, how will you make those young people know that they have an asset to the continent? Because every day, if you make a survey, every African youth wants to leave the continent. You're asking the question, are they really aware of the fact that they are the nation builders, they are the ones to develop this country? Why is it that they just want to go out of the continent?
Yeah, it is. We still have some colonial grip in Africa, where our colonial masters made us see their own country as being more well off than Africa. And that mentality is still in us. Now, I think it is time for African youths themselves to open their eyes. Because when you look at the world today, look at America, China, Russia, European countries, their attention is in Africa. That alone is enough to tell the African youths that Africa is where the future belongs. And therefore, if these big countries, if the countries you want to go to are walking towards Africa, because Africa, I followed a documentary where it was revealed that Ivory Coast and Ghana alone produces 80% of world cocoa. Now, if you add Cameroon, for example, and other countries, you see that Africa is lucrative. But the youth, what we fail to understand is that we are on goal, and we strive to go and look for something of lesser value than gold. That is the mentality. But I must also assure you that that spirit is fast disappearing. We are seeing youths in Africa now doing great things. When President Paul Kagame talks about investing into the youth, he's not talking about pushing the youth. He's talking about investing. It means that the youths are already doing something.
Like harnessing
yes,
the ability, helping them bring out their talent.
Of course. So, despite the fact that we have some of them who believe that you can only make it out there, there are some of them. Mind you, those who are clamoring for double nationality in certain African countries today are Africans. Why are they doing that? Because they have understood that it is here in Africa. Like one famous musician, Petit Pays, says, "Ça se passe ici." This is where we can do it. So you see that the mentality is fast developing, and that is the entrepreneurial spirit that we are encouraging, where young people should be able to understand that it is here and they can do it. If people like Dangote are succeeding, they are not in Europe. They did not go and establish in Europe to succeed. They are succeeding in Africa. We have people like Rebecca Enonjong, an IT lady. They are all Africans. Today, a company, a reputable vehicle company manufacturer has installed its assembly unit in Rwanda.
In Rwanda, Kigali.
This is Africa. So how can we keep believing that it is over there. No, it is time we believe now that it is here in Africa, and it is only in Africa that we can do it. And there are a lot of opportunities in Africa. When you talk with entrepreneurs from other continents, they are so much interested in Africa because the African
Africa is endowed.
Is endowed and is still, in fact, very rich,
Very.
very fertile.
In every aspect, you
In
have the
every
human
aspect.
the natural resources and everything.
Everything is here. And I will tell you that if Africans can understand this, then no one will spend millions to look for a visa to go abroad. He will spend that million
To
in
invest.
developing something in his country.
Definitely. He will spend that million in developing the African continent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, just know that this is an interactive program, a platform where you call to give your own opinion on what is making. Do you think African entrepreneurship, youth entrepreneurship, will help cover the migration crisis? Every day, the young people are dying out over the Mediterranean in quest for greener pastures overseas. Now talking about harnessing or investing in the youth. Now we are putting this question: does the education model of our countries in the African continent, do they really promote the spirit of entrepreneurship among the young people? That is the question we're asking. Now we'll listen to this first intervention. You are welcome to the program. This intervention coming from Mr. Terence. We are welcome to the program. Go on with your contribution, sir.
Good afternoon, Africa. Think about
You are on air. Go on with your contribution. It seems we have a difficulty getting to that caller.
1 billion in the next 25 years, making job creation and enterprise.
Very difficult getting to that caller, Mr. Agbotema. I'll come back to you. Now, okay, this other intervention from Mr. Master. You are welcome to the program, sir. The lines are not the best. Okay, he's there. Go on with your contribution.
On small business, we is doing some petty business in order for them to raise money, some money that will help us go to school in our later days. But all in all, that one alone, it was not like punishment. It was one aspect that they made us to learn a lot, so that in future we'll be able to depend on ourselves, not to be depending on other. Actually, when we see African youths today, it is because most African youths are not engaged in technical education. And if we engage in technical education, you are going to realize that the Africans will always be top. Will always be top if and only if we put our hands together and all those things like that. And again, what our parents were teaching us is to be independent, to be independent. But in these days, if take for example, a youth is struggling to make as a particular business, taxes will also make that particular person to be discouraged, and as such, it is killing the ambitions of the African youths. It is killing the ambition of the African youths. Why? Because of the high taxes that is making them not to be encouraged to do all those things like that. So rather now they prefer now to be doing things that they will earn quick money. That they will earn quick money in whatsoever thing that we do in Africa. We do everything that we do in Africa. Most of our things that we do is wasting powers. whether our soil is fertile, people engage in agriculture and whatsoever will still depend in Western powers for the product that we produce. So it is high time if we try to change our educational system in Africa and look and put more emphasis on technical education, where the children, they will be motivated with a good day. They will come out and they will be entrepreneurs on their own. They will be on their own, and as such, you are going to realize that Africa in the next future will be a place to be. Thank you.
Thank you also for participating, Mr. Marcel. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are on the screen. You can only contribute on this program by calling the numbers and giving your own opinion, for it is very important for nation building. We are looking at African youth and entrepreneurship. Now let's come back to the role of the government. He just made mention, is the government really giving the youth the opportunity they need to be able to be job creator? Before I come back to you, there's this caller on the line. You are welcome to the program. Go on with your contribution.
You are welcome to the program. Go on with your contribution.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Yes, this is Juana Lawrence calling from Bamenda.
You're welcome.
Yes. What I want to say is that African youth can do well if African Union is not concerned to that organization, because African Union is a corrupted organization who will be controlled by France. Because African youth, we are not lazy. We are hardworking people, intelligent, that we can do something if we are only independent. Furthermore, the African Union member who is coming to Cameroon, if he is coming to about the Southern Cameroon problem, let him not waste his time, because this problem cannot be solved by African Union. This union were there when this Obia declared war on Southern Cameroon people. But African Union is not aware that roughly to 2,000 people are in Nigeria, roughly to 2,000 people are in the bushes. Women and children are dying every day, killing by the Republic military. So I just see that that man is coming to receive his brown envelope as others are doing. So we, the people of Southern Cameroon, we have decided and we have taken our decision. We will be independent. So I just want to tell my brothers and sisters, home and abroad, that we need to fight to stay alive. We need to fight to install our independence. We need to fight to be free. Because you see, madam, the bribe that is going around the whole world is the money that comes from Southern Cameroon.
Governor, thank you all for your intervention, Mr. Lawrence. We're trying to look at how the African youth can be more important to the society. And I'll come back to this. When you look at the terrorist organization, you identify the many youths now trying to make them entrepreneurs. Would this not distract them or take their minds out of this illegal things that are causing instability in the country, in the continent Africa, Mr. Agbotem?
Well, let us first of all look at the upbringing.
Definitely.
You see, before someone becomes a youth, he's first of all a child. It's just unfortunate that society tends to ignore the upbringing of children. In fact, all of us, we were trained by our parents to be wealth creators, to know that we can fight, we can work to make ends meet. And unfortunately today, why are some of these youths getting involved in terrorism? It's because of fake promises.
Definitely.
It is not because of the government, because you don't need the government to develop a lucrative activity for yourself. Or you will not expect that you're sleeping on your bed for the government to come and take you up and say, go and do something.
They have to be pushful.
You have to be pushful. Entrepreneurial spirit comes from within. The desire to take care of yourself, the desire to do something.
The desire
for-
to impact change
Of
and to see
course.
the economy changing.
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to you. We have Mr. Alan Roach Ngacha, all the way from South Africa. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Hello, Clarice. Yeah, good afternoon, Clarice, and good afternoon to your panelist. I thank him for the kick that he already gave to the program. I like to listen to him. Yeah, thank you. I would like to say one thing. You know, entrepreneurship is something that is critical to the youth development, but it must be instilled in the youth from the word go. When they start training people, it should be professional-centered or career-centered training that they introduce in schools. You see, countries like South Korea, they have had the experience of being very developed in terms of entrepreneurship. But if you see the level of education there, they don't need to be master degree or PhD to do anything. From grade 1 to grade 10 in those countries, you are already a career somebody. And that's what they must do. Now, we happen to be in a country, or the majority of African countries happen to be the type of country in which the business people do not collaborate with the government to produce the skills that their business are short of. So at the end of the day, people are trained, but not in response to anything that is the need of the business of the locality. And that is why most of the time you see our qualified youth seek to go out for so-called greener pasture. But if the training at home was made according to a curriculum that the business demand is in accordance with, definitely we will have more youth being involved directly into the working environment as soon as they complete their studies. Now, we also have another problem that I want to highlight here, is that in Africa, especially the French-speaking Africa, because the English-speaking Africa has this particularity that people are career-centered most of the time. But in the French-speaking Africa particularly, we will see that engineers go to school, they finish their career, and they come back going from door to door looking for a job, which is not acceptable. When you already graduate at any level of your studies, you should be able to create the job for those who never had a chance to go like you. And this, we did it with a lot of success in South Africa, because I happen to run also some schools here where our duty is to pick children from the grassroots, orientate them towards a specific career, and we call it vocational training, and make sure that before a very short time, they are already able to produce something on which they can live. If they can do so in many African countries, especially those who produce too much migrant outsider, definitely we will be more developed and the youth will be more involved in community and economical activity. So that's what I can say for now. So I suggest to our countries that business people who employ the youth get involved in the choice of curriculum that are used in our schools, so that the people are career oriented, and then when they are out, they come to them. We saw the duty of Photo Victor. He needed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alan Roche, for contributing, and of course, it will go a long way to impact the young people of the continent Africa. I will come back to you, Mr. Agbotem. He made mention of something that brought me to think about mentorship. Do you think the African youth, they really lack mentors? Who are the best mentors to guide them into harnessing or discovering how endowed they are and the impact they have in seeing to it economic development in the continent?
First of all, you must understand the concept of mentorship.
Definitely.
Mentorship is not forced on people. I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs like myself, and I usually tell them, avoid the I can do it all alone syndrome. You go to someone to be mentored. You cannot force yourself to mentor someone who doesn't seek mentorship. And I agree with you that there is a very big gap between the experienced entrepreneurs and startuppers. Now, one thing I must raise here is that, you see, we are more than 60 years after the independence of Africa. And throughout this time, we have been crying one complaint to another. Where has it taken us to?
That is the question.
I think it is no more time to pinpoint problems, but to use those problems as opportunities to develop solutions. Because yes, our educational system, we can talk about it from today in the next 100 years. But I still think that irrespective of the fact that the government may not be giving enough support, the society needs entrepreneurs, and that is focal. Because as an entrepreneur, if you want to develop something, for example, when John Gutenberg invented printing, he did not do it for the government.
Definitely.
He did it because he wanted to render services. He wanted to give people the opportunity to read the Bible. And in our society in Africa, we have a lot of difficulties. It is time for youth to seek solutions to those problems. I was talking with somebody, he raised an issue and said, nowadays, people have problems of emptying their trash cans. Why must we always wait on Hizaka?
Definitely.
A young man can take up that challenge and say, since there is a problem, people have problem of emptying their trash cans, I can create a network where I render that services, and I think that people will just be happy to see him do that in exchange of some small something.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think that the time for crying has passed, Clarice. It is time for action now. Because an entrepreneur, to us entrepreneurs, difficulties and obstacles are not setbacks, but opportunities.
Opportunities for you to keep on pushing. Mr. Samuel has just joined us right now. You're welcome to the program. He's calling right away from Motengene in the Republic of Cameroon. That's in the southwest region. You are on air, sir. Go on with your contribution. We seem not to be getting to that caller. Are you there, sir? You're on air. Go on with your contribution. Definitely very difficult. Okay, yes. You're on air.
Yeah. When you look at what is going on, in South Korea, you realize that the government has created schools for entrepreneurship. But in our countries like Cameroon, there is no such school. And again, the government is just a government that is looking only for the old people to sit and forget about what the youth are thinking. This is the problem of Cameroon. Before I was born, up to now, look at like a man with a Cavalier degree. When I was still in my mother womb, up to now, we see there. Look at President Paul Biya. There is no change. All the ministers are all old men. They don't think like youth. And what is going on in Cameroon now? It's a situation that the English-speaking Cameroonians feel like they don't belong in Cameroon anymore. That's the situation we are facing now.
Okay,
and it's good.
Thank you for participating. Of course, when you identify a problem, you look for solutions. Now, it will bring us to this one. We're talking about economic dependence or independence. we know that it's the pathway here towards economic independence, that is youth entrepreneurship. Can you elucidate more on what economic independence is, Mr. Agbote?
Well, let's look at economic independence, first of all, in terms of persons.
Definitely.
When you were born into the world, it is the responsibility of your parents to take care of you. They sponsored you to school. They gave you everything. At a particular time in your life, from a particular age, you have the urge of doing things yourself because you don't want to go back to daddy and mommy and ask them. Maybe you want to go out with friends.
Definitely.
You need some little cash to do some Java, as they say. That economic independence starts in you. And that is why, like for some of us who grew up in the village, I'll tell you, Clarice, even when we were in secondary school, during holidays, we used to do some menial jobs, holiday jobs. This just because we want to go back to school with something. That is already an economic independent ability. And I think that in every African youth,
yes,
it is in us.
Definitely.
But we are not canalizing it to the right direction.
Yeah.
Some people are canalizing theirs to illegal immigration, while some people are maybe doing some little things to get themselves independent. But the challenge and the truth about entrepreneurship is that the world is developed by entrepreneurs.
Definitely.
All what we use today started small. Like Bob Marley usually says, the biggest man you know was once a baby. If a journey of 10,000 miles starts with a step.
Yeah.
We need to take that step. And it is high time, like the last caller just said, we are all aware of these problems. But if we keep singing the problems instead of thinking of solutions, we'll become so stagnant. And that is the worst situation in life. When you're stagnant, it is better.
You try to limit your mind and your imagination.
And like Martin Luther King Jr. says, if you cannot run, walk.
Definitely.
If you cannot walk, creep. But in all, do something. And that something might not only be beneficial to you, but to the society at large.
Definitely, it cannot only be beneficial to you, but to the society. We are going now to take this caller from Douala. You're welcome, sir. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Good afternoon to you, sir. You are on air. Go on with your contribution.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, sir. You are on air.
Yeah, my contribution is that the Cameroon government does not encourage his people, let's say the youth.
Difficulty getting to that caller. Please, can you not stop listening to yourself to avoid the interruption? Please stop listening to yourself when you're calling. I'll come back to you, Mr.
I think that the Cameroon government does not encourage the young entrepreneurs.
Many people
They are not like credit unions that
we are sorry having difficulties assimilating what you're trying to say, sir. Now, you can stop and call us back. The numbers are on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your interactive program, your informative program. It is Views on the Continent. We're taking interest in the young people of the continent. How can they help in nation building? And that's why we're talking about entrepreneurship. How can the government help the young people harness, or how can the government invest in this young people, Mr. Agbo Tema? Let's come back to the financial situation. What are the financial institutions doing in order to help these youth attain this objective?
Well, as an entrepreneur and someone who is involved in the milieu, I would say the financial institutions are trying their best, and that the problem may not be from the financial institution, but from the young entrepreneurs themselves. Now, coming back to the last caller, I was trying to say the government.
Everybody seems to be blaming the government.
We have become so politicized in Cameroon that we don't even know when to keep politics aside. In everything, we want to bring politics.
Definitely.
Entrepreneurialism is not an affair of the government.
And it's not a political
But I
affair.
still believe that the government of Cameroon, I may shock some people because I'm an opposition member.
Definitely.
The government of Cameroon has put some measures in place to support young entrepreneurs. But do they go to these set organizations?
That is the question. Do they
don't.
go to the set
That's the first thing.
organizations?
Now, financial institutions are there to make money.
Like the African Development Bank, what have the
If
bank
your
done?
project is lucrative, they will support you. I was just talking with a youth before I came to this program. I was saying, you don't just have a project and just go about.
That is it.
Go to people who can help you.
Mentorship still.
Mentorship. Now, another problem of mentorship in Africa is that we are afraid, young entrepreneurs are so much afraid that their project will be stolen. And I was talking to him today, I said, no one can steal your program. For your project, for somebody to steal your project, he needs to cut your head.
Definitely.
Because your project is your idea. It is something you're seeing that other people
Have not seen. No.
And that thing remains in you. If you go towards those who can help you develop it, it can be something. We have big projects today that started small, and they became big because today we are talking about Facebook.
Definitely.
But there was somebody who lent a helping hand to Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg did not get up alone and
Definitely.
arrived where he is today. He was mentored.
The spirit of
Of course, that is
pluralism.
what we are encouraging in Africa today. And this issue of complaining, the more we complain, the more we digress.
Okay, the more we complain, the more we digress. Another caller on the line, you're welcome to the program. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
My name is James.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, madam. Okay, so what about this? You know that the encourage entrepreneurs. What am I trying to if a young can a program with Isaac taking up because Isaac even us here is the very one to laugh. The government herself will encourage the person some slangs to do. So it is what
The line seems not to be too good. We kind of really assimilate your point. Please, just a reminder, when you're calling, stop listening to yourself so you will not have the interruption. Mr. Agbotem, entrepreneurship in the African youth. Now, this businessman, the president of the African Development Bank, has said we should stop talking about youth empowerment, but we should talk about investing in youth, because according to him, when we talk about youth empowerment, those who advocate for youth empowerment end up empowering themselves, whereas the youth are lagging behind. Do you really think this assertion is true?
Yeah, I agree with him. Youth needs more of investment than empowerment, but to some extent I think the two can go. But now it depends on what comes first.
Definitely.
I think what comes first is investment. Now, I want to talk in terms of youth investment. With his statement, it should give us opportunity to review our educational system. Because, like you clearly said in your introduction, our educational system produces more of job seekers
than job creators,
than wealth creators. Now, if we have to not even enhance, reform our educational system, we must be attentive to our society. What does our society need?
Definitely.
When we talk of African development, what does African development need? In that regard, we should be able to reform our education to produce actors in African development rather than spectators. Because we have more.
Just to benefit.
Yes. When people go to school in Cameroon, they hope to be graduated and then succeed in one concourse or the other, or get an employment.
Direct employment.
And even when they get employment, because they lack wealth creation abilities, it becomes very difficult for them to keep their companies alive.
Definitely.
Because even when you're working in a company, entrepreneurial spirit is not just only when you are doing an activity for yourself. But even when you are working in a company, as a journalist, you must create wealth for this TV station to continue to be alive. And if you are not a wealth creator, and if you are a spectator, because there are some people who are so indifferent, they are working in a company, the company is sinking, and it's nothing to them. The same like we are in our neighborhood. Some years ago, when I had the opportunity to talk to youth about poverty alleviation, I told them a poor person is somebody who does not listen to the opportunities of his surroundings.
Definitely.
We have a lot of opportunities, but if we don't listen to them and react, so our educational system must be reformed to train developmental actors than spectators.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but let's get this call out. Good afternoon to you and welcome to the program. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Coming from Cameroon, because
you're welcome. Go on with your contribution, and please stop listening to yourself.
Yes, I wanted to contribute on the program to say that the entrepreneurship that have been in fact used in Cameroon is not effective. The purpose of the creation of private institutions, higher institutions, was to interpret and to teach youth on entrepreneurship. And today in Cameroon, that does not happen. I want to differ with my brother, my uncle at the station, who have made a lot of debates and contradicting himself, talking on how the government is not a problem, which the government have a bottleneck, discouraging youth to invest in high taxes I want to say that as an entrepreneur, you have the obligation to look up to the government, be able to help us financially. He said that Cameroon government have put in place mechanism, institution that can help the youth. And this same organization, this same entrepreneurship, which have sit down to design goals for the youth, they don't help the youth to achieve their goals. One of the problems the youth have is capital, the capital to start these businesses. And you agree with me that if I don't have capital, my dreams will definitely die, or my project will definitely not be carried on. And so this commission that has been put in place to encourage youth, when you bring your idea to them or your project to them, they kill it. Sometimes.
Okay, thank you for contributing, Mr. Agbotem. We're about 5 minutes to the end of this program. I'll ask this very technical question. How can Africa take advantage of its diversity? You have the human factor. We're talking about youth entrepreneurship. How can Africa take advantage of this endowment in the human aspect?
Well, first of all, the first advantage is that development needs diversity, because when people of different talent and skills come together, they can build something. And that is something which is also lacking in African entrepreneurs. I earlier talked about this "I can do it all alone" syndrome. We should understand that our diversities should unite us more than separate us.
Yeah.
If we can come together, knowing, for example, nothing stops 10 youths or 10 graduates from coming together to create a company. And they will, because the end point of every business venture is the well-being of those involved and its clients.
And its clients.
Now, if 10 youths can come together, they can form something and it will grow stronger. But in most cases, you see, it is not the case. People are able to eat, drink together, but when it comes to working towards a common project for their own well-being, no way. So for us to benefit from our human diversity, we must be able to work together. Because it is only together that we can stand and do greater things for our continent, Africa as a whole.
Definitely, Mr. Agbotem. This last question, as you notice, many callers we are throwing the blame on the various governments of the African continent, but we know that most of the leaders, they are part of the African Union, and they have this sustainable development goal, the vision, and they hope to integrate the young people in the decision making. What can you challenge, can you give to the African leaders as regards this?
The first challenge I will give to African leaders is that they should make Africa a peaceful and stable place. When there is peace and harmony, a lot can happen. And that is the only blame I have for African leaders, because they are the cause of the instability in Africa, and especially Cameroon.
Okay, obviously your voice has been heard, and the callers, thank you for calling. We have just come to the end of this program. We want to appreciate you all for being there, and to the technical crew, we thank you for making it a success. Now, hoping that you will stay in the company of the programs on your Pan-African television, Afric Media. Thank you again, Mr. Agbo, for coming.
Thank you so much.